Bien, vamos un poquito mal de tiempo, pero vamos recuperando poco a poco. Es para mí un placer enorme poder presentar aquí a Fabrizio Cardinali. I'll switch to English. Fabrizio is a key person in the e-learning scene all over the world. It's an Italian company, but with an international presence, and they are very strong participating in European projects. They are very strong in standardization organizations, IMS, etc. They are always at the front of the innovation in terms of e-learning. So this is why it's a pleasure for me to present Fabrizio Cardinali, CEO of Exact Learning Solutions, former Giunti Labs, but changed name recently, to present his talk about mobile learning, myth or reality, theory, trends and cases. Looking very much forward to your talk.
Thank you.
Fabrizio.
Do you think I can stand up? Do you hear me? Okay. Does everybody understands English? Who understands English? Okay, so I can speak English. Sorry for that, but I was deciding on speaking Italian, which presumably is better if you don't understand English, but if you understand English, maybe it's better to speak English, okay? So it's meeting midway. Yes, as the chair was correctly introducing, you might know me personally, and you might not know Exact Learning Solutions. Exact Learning Solutions is the new name of a company which was named Giunti Labs. So we have partnered with more or less all the Madrid universities. So we are in one or two projects with any or each of the Madrid universities. So you might know the former name. We exited the publishing group. Giunti is a very large publishing group, a little bit like maybe Anaya or Planeta here in Spain, leading of education in Italy. But we decided to go out from the group last August because publishing were getting a little bit nervous and overwhelming presence. We'll see why. And we think there's a much more better development if we focus on the more than 150 clients that we have out there. So publishing was just 1%, our captive publishing was just 1% of our market, and that's why we did a management buyout, and now we are independent and working with even more publishers than before. You also might know us if you are part of enterprise, because we have several Spanish clients, and for example here in Madrid, Caja Madrid. Is there anybody from Caja Madrid? No? Okay, I invited them, but they are quite engaged in the merging that they are undergoing in these days to become the largest Spanish-speaking bank here in Spain. And also the Ministry of Defense, for example, is one of our clients here in Madrid. And they are using our solutions, so our learning content management system and our digital repository solutions. And they're starting to look into the mobile solutions, which is what we might be talking about today. But since I have an hour, more or less, if confirmed, more than talking about the company and the case studies, real market case studies for mobile solutions that we are just launching also on Android in 2 weeks' time in the world-leading mobile learning conference in San Jose, I also wanted to take another hat of the many I have, and as in the introduction, talk more from a standards and from a strategical European perspective. I'm chair of European Learning Industry Group. Who knows what IIIG is? So IIIG is quite a relevant association, but not many know about it, and it might be worth to just put a slide up so that you might consider joining if you are a technology developer or a company. IIIG is a group, European Learning Industry Group. It's a non-for-profit association, and it was funded by Mrs. Redding, which is, let's say, the Prime Minister, one of the Prime Ministers of Europe. She was in 2000 to 2005 in the Prodi Commission. She was Prime Minister of Culture and Education. So she was the lady that when the people met in Lisbon, the Portuguese capital in 2000, defining a 5-year agenda for the knowledge society in Europe, she was responsible of education and culture. And in those nice days, the idea was that Europe would have become the leading knowledge society by 2005. There was a lot of investment from the European Commission, and it was good days for research and development. We all know more or less how that ended up, and we didn't become the world-leading knowledge society. Actually, we have big problems today when we talk about knowledge and scientific and technical dissemination. But she was re-elected, as it usually happens, you know, even if the agenda was not met. In 2006, in the Barroso Commission, she moved to Media and Information Society Commissioner. It was not just a political move, but it was also presumably a technical move, because presumably one of the solutions of the problem of education and culture in Europe is presumably technology. So she moved into media and information, and she started to progress with the unbundling of the infrastructure from the service level. So one of the main drivers of the market is when you separate things. So if you separate internet and the infrastructure of internet from those who deliver services on top of it, so that it's not just Telecom Italia or Telefonica, but anybody can play on an equal way, you get a much wider and more interesting market. So she did this in Europe very well in the media and information role that she had, and she also launched in 2006 in the Prague Declaration a new target that she called the I-2010 work program, which is all about the three I's: interoperability, individualization, and innovation. What she was saying is that the only way Europe can succeed and survive global competition was by doing real open systems at the IT and media level. So meaning interoperability, you could actually exchange data across information systems in e-government, and we're talking about eMadrid here. So the foundation is that if you are a citizen and you get enrolled into a system, your data record should be interoperable across the systems. Now, if you bring this to education, a student which is enrolled in UNED should be able to move to Bocconi University and have his portfolio uploaded dynamically into the school information system. We know this is a dream still, and it's not happening. But if you want to have real mobility today, mobility is virtual. So I should be able to enroll onto an online portal in Italy, and my personal ego, my personal portfolio, my personal track record should be interoperable. We're talking about European qualification framework, European credit transfer system, so that your credits and your qualifications can be recognized across the nations. All this is key to making interoperability succeed in Europe. Then we have individualization. I mean, we are getting Eastern and Southern Europe more and more enlarged, so it's a bigger and bigger Europe. But if you look at the population, it's older and older, and it's fewer and fewer. So if we need to compete with India, China, and in the future maybe Bangladesh, Pakistan, because that is a trend, the economy is going eastwards, we need to survive by engaging more and more people. So it's not just a matter of social engagement and engagement, but it's also a matter of business. I mean, we need to have elderly people in the cycle, disabled people in the cycle. We need to engage everybody. And to do this, we need to individualize the training. So everybody is different, and individualization is going to be key. The last I stand for innovation. Europe has always put the money where the ideas were, and a lot of people have criticized this. Huge investments, little returns. The change of perspective which has happened over the last 5 years has been in that rather than a lot of umbrella investments, to have more strategical approach to research and development. Bigger IP, integrated projects, but also wiser multicultural melting pots, so that technology companies like us, universities, publishers, they come and work together. And I would say that the new lifelong learning program, which started under Mrs. Redding, was correctly in that direction. But again, did we make it to become the leading knowledge society? No. We are actually one of the latest knowledge society amongst the Western and emerging economies. And the emerging economies are putting monies and investment in research, which are far beyond the percentage that we can do today in Europe. So there is a big problem. I mean, we need to survive, not to win or to compete. And that is the big trend today. And not by maybe only political move, Mrs. Redding has been moved to legal affairs. So is one of the ways protection? I mean, Barack Obama in US, I mean, as soon as he was elected, he started to give investments only to US patented technologies. Presumably that is one of the ways. Like it or not, it might be one of the trends. But I mean, the big agenda on which we are trying to help is to get Europe to invent the next big thing. And since we are talking about education, to invent the next big thing in technology-enhanced learning, which is the specific action line of the European research programs which deal with the things that we're talking about today. We are very, very active in ELIG. We are not only the chairs, but we are one of the founding members. The founding members, as you see here, were all very, very large multinationals. So you might smile that IBM, Intel, Microsoft, Cisco, Accenture, and Hitachi are in ELIG, European Learning Industry Group, but they are lobbyists. So they're very good in getting in Brussels, and there are their European branches. But luckily there were also a lot of European stakeholders and players, but we were very few. So we've done an impressive marketing about getting technology developers, smart leaders, and companies inside. And today we are more than 80 companies. So if you want to join, there's going to be the annual group meeting in Helsinki in October. I've got wildcard of invitations, so you don't need to engage physically in ELIG, and I can invite you to the annual meeting so that you can hear about what it's all about. Anyhow, what it's all about, it's mostly about studying trends and where the market is going so that we can consult the European Commission. We are an official one body that the Commission can go to and ask, what is the industry thinking? And I get regularly invited by all the decision takers there, and I go there to talk on your behalf. So it's maybe better if you engage and we talk more and more. So this today is not only an occasion to touch base, but also to share my views and my ideas, because this is what I'm saying to the Commission. So if it's not correct, please, let's talk in the coffee break and let's fine-tune it. Even better, you should actively engage in ELIG. So we can talk about that in the coffee also. So, but before talking about the future, let's see what's happened over the last 15 years in technology-enhanced learning. I mean, many of you, I think, at least the older ones, were engaged in the nice days of computer-based training, when it was much easier. I mean, there was much less technology, much more pedagogy, and we could just concentrate on the message rather than on the medium. When internet came to the market in, let's say, around 98, 99, 2000, the real consumer market, we all know that it was there much before, but when this revolution came out in 2000, more or less, everybody went online, and the same thing happened for education. What university did, and luckily they were just American typically, and maybe British universities, they just brought the model online. They didn't change anything, and it happens with every new media. When the television was invented, it copied radio. When radio was invented, it copied theater. When internet was invented and e-learning was more or less branded, what the university did, they just moved online. 6 years courses with 2,000 students, with one teacher having to manage them all, and with regularly paced courses. That was the easiest way to do it. And it seemed to be the El Dorado, the big promise of education. Huge investments, huge capitalizations. We had stock exchange bubble and so on. This was a big wave, but it turned out to be a tsunami in a couple of years. I mean, everything went bankrupt because the real thing was much better. If I am an MIT or New York University student, it's much better to go to the university brick and mortar, have social experience, the real thing, if the thing that I have online is just term pages with no real people and no real interactions behind it. So it wasn't the right model. And it also gave the usual...